your estate. And that's where everybody gets off into different categories and or positions as to where they stand in regards to moving forward. Now, what I did, go ahead.
If I can inject, I'm going to read something from Corpus Juris Secundum that may enlighten to the next steps that you, or some steps that we're leading out. And it says, I'm reading from volume 28, Corpus Juris, not Corpus Juris Secundum, but Corpus Juris, section 110. Section 110, huh?
Corpus
Juris.
What's the second word? Juris.
Juris.
Yep. And what's the number?
Volume 28, section 110. And it's going to be the alphabetical alphabet M. And it says termination of guardianship. One, majority of ward. Where a guardian is appointed because of the infancy of the ward, the guardianship terminates when the ward attains his majority. But the guardian remains subject to the duty, if it has not been already performed, of making a final accounting and settlement with his ward, and also remains liable on any personal obligations which he has assumed in connection with the guardianship. So you just spoke about the probate court, and in this same section, it talks about going to the probate court, and it talks about some probate courts are not all equity courts. So you have to make sure that you get inside one of those probate courts, which is going to be equity, dealing in equity, where you can ask for the accounting and settlement of the estate, so you can take control of it, or you still can appoint them to be the guardian of that. That's your choice, from my understanding, from what I'm reading. So from their words, not my words. This is from Corpus Juris Secundum. It says, for making a final accounting and settlement. And those that have been studying, talking about the public debt, and they talk about each estate owes a public debt. So to settle out those matters, to make sure those accounts are settled, from what I'm seeing, we haven't asked for the settlement of the accounting and going to make sure. But in this, and it talks about the exclusive inherent jurisdiction that equity has over this estate or the trust.
Yeah. Well, how do you know a equity probate court? How do you know that?
Well, I guess when you petition, your pleadings would be making sure that you are choosing the exclusive inherent equity courts, but it has to be from a private trust perspective. Wow. There's two realms that exist. So if your pleadings don't invoke that in your petition, invoking the exclusive inherent jurisdiction, where you can get exclusive jurisdiction is over top of that ward, equity would do that. But it has to be exclusive. And the only way you can get exclusive is through a private trust. That's where they place your inherent rights at. And a lot of us think that some of the stuff is private, which is not, because it's got the statutory equity is a lookalike. So, but that would exclude, once you choose one, it's the exclusion of the other. So it's the doctrine of exclusion, doctrine of election. What we're going to choose? We're going to choose either public or we're going to choose private.
Well, what would you prefer? I think we're trying to move into the private realm.
Right. For me, myself, I prefer the private because you cannot discharge any debt in the public. You have to get on the private side and using the equitable nature title. That's a positive you have a positive number then. But if you're doing a bond, which is a promise to pay to settle a debt, that's not mathematics. You can't take a debt and a promise to pay. That means you just added on to the public debt. But if you're using the equitable nature of the asset, then you can do that. But it's only expressed through a private trust. And when you look at this corpus juris secundum inside of here, it talks about general deposit and special deposit, and it talks about when you deposit something generally, then the bank owns the title. The depositor doesn't retain the title, even though that's your money you put into the bank. But if you do it by special deposit, by arrangement with the bank on the private, then you retain the title. They become the trustee. So when you look at this stuff, like, oh,